Big players must step up in big time games. I'll tell you who those big steppers are and give you a little bit of an injury report in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Locked On Jaguars, where it's your team every day. And we thank you for making us your first listen. I am Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast. I'm glad you joined us today. Got to let you know that we're free to subscribe to on our YouTube page. Make sure you go to YouTube, go to Locked On Jaguars. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and then hit the bell so you receive notifications each and every time we drop an episode. Also, wherever you listen to your audio podcast, make sure you tap into that location every single day so you don't miss an episode of Locked On Jaguars. Today's show is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. We'd also like to take this moment to give a shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for joining us every single day. And if you're not an everydayer, you can be one. All you got to do is join us every single day. All right, big time. I've been thinking about this. I put it on a little bit of a hold so I can put it out to you at this moment. Big time players step up in big time games, big time moments and all of that. You've heard different versions of that. Cliche, but it rings true. It is absolutely the truth. These are the moments that big time players get paid for. Technically, they get paid to practice and then perform and show on game day what they actually have been working on. But I'm going to tell you, it's more to it than that. If you're going to get to the next level, especially in sports, if you're going to the next level, you have to have a different level that you can go to. Getting to a new level always requires you to be able to take your stuff to another level. This is why they love talent so much, because talent is the one thing that is irreplaceable. A lot of people like to say hard work beats talent, right? Well, a hardworking, less talented player is not going to beat a hardworking, more talented player, because the talented players tend to have things that just get them beyond the X's and O's and allow them to do things that mortal people, and I'm one of them, mortal people can't even dream of doing. That is the fascination that we have with watching these gladiators go out and do what they do. Now, I know y'all saying, "Well, you act like you describing Game of Thrones or something, right? You talking about this like it's like a death match." For the Jaguars, this is kind of a death match. That's what it is, because you're either going to live the way you currently are, all right? You're going to fight and you're going to win. And the way you are right now, you're going to remain that. Or if you lose, you're going to go back to what you used to be. Right now, in the eyes of Jaguar fans, maybe not today, but this year and the way that they feel, they're in pretty good shape. Jaguars had a BBL. They got fined all of a sudden overnight, right? Then when you eat too much, you're going to need another BBL, right? That means you done gained the weight back and you look just like you looked before. And I hate doing that to people, like when they lose weight, say, "Ooh, I'm glad you lost weight because you used to be real fat," right? But when you're the Jaguars and you're this close, you eat one biscuit and you're going to be looking just like you looked before, I can kind of tell you that this is a big game. This is what it is. And the way that you win this game is you rely on guys that you have that the other team doesn't. That's just what it is. As you can use all of these other weeks to develop your identity and be who you want to be. But when it's a win all or nothing game, when they say put it on the floor and everything is everything, right? There ain't no time for that. You better look at your core guys, your steppers, your big steppers, as they say in the hood, right? The dudes that stand on business. You got to look at those guys and say, "I need you." And then they have to look at the other guys and say, "I need your help." Make no mistake about it. When it is sudden death, it is all about your alpha males and your that's the only people. Males. I'm not making this sexist. So let me just say it's crazy that we have to do this kind of stuff. You have to depend on your alphas. There's only males out there playing. Shout out to the ladies. I love you. But the point that I'm making is this is the time when you have to drop it. Y'all know what I'm talking about. You ain't got to look back to think about what I'm dropping. I'm dropping what I am with all of my might right in front of you in Nashville. Trevor Lawrence, he's improved to questionable. Ain't no way they're going to keep him off the field. They got to lock him out of the stadium to keep him off the field. It's not official as of yet, but you heard it from me. Josh Allen, been great all year. You got to be great tomorrow, especially against that bad offensive line, right? Trayvon Walker, if Christian Kirk comes back, him too. Tyson Campbell, because the only way they can beat you is if they take chances and D-Hop hits a couple of big plays. Foye Oluokun, y'all got to tackle Derrick Henry in what might be his last game as a Titan. All of these things, man, have to happen in order for the Jacksonville Jaguars to be and to do what it is that they want to be and what they want to do. You got to have your big time guys step up. Y'all say Evan Ingram is one. Evan Ingram, go ahead and have a day tomorrow. Travis Etienne, it's time. Shake and bake. Get it done. Get it done. Devin Lloyd, help with the run. Don't be getting run over. Don't be missing tackles in space. And the big stepper is Press Taylor. And I know y'all are like, what? Yeah. This is not the time. People say I've been taking up for Press all year. I don't think I've been taking up for Press all year. I think what I've been doing was I've just been putting the onus more on his boss, which is Doug Peterson. Because I look at it like this. Ain't nobody got to tell you your kid is out of control. You know your kid is out of control. So why should we be getting mad at the kid? I'm getting mad at you. You allowed him to do it, right? So, and I don't necessarily think they've been out of control. And I don't think they've done a whole bunch different that they did last year. The only thing I think they did differently was tell you who's calling plays. Because I think the way that they go about it is the exact same way that they went about it a year ago or very, very close to it. So, Doug Peterson, Mike Caldwell, this is it. In segment 3, I'm going to tell you the pluses and minuses of Sunday's outcome. And what I mean about the pluses and minuses of Sunday's outcome, and I got to change something here because I actually misspelled outcome, but that's all good. The pluses and minuses of Sunday's outcome. Where I'm going with that is this. It is night and day what this thing is going to look like if for some reason things don't go the way that they want it to go and all of these other scenarios don't go the way that they want it to go. And not only do the Jaguars lose to a bad team, what happens if they lose and don't make the playoffs? Losing is one thing, but losing to a bad team and then having to depend on a whole bunch of other stuff to happen to determine whether or not you make the playoffs is going to be ugly. The difference between what can happen if you win and what can happen if you lose, or what will happen if you lose, is night and day. Night and day. So the Jags could really come out of this thing looking absolutely crazy, or everybody could go and start forgetting how crazy you were looking the last month and a half. And then all of a sudden now, 2 weeks in a row, you cleaned it up heading into the playoffs and nobody will care because now you have a new season. But if you don't get there, oh my God, you're going to look terrible. So that's segment 3. Segment 2, before we can decide whether or not, I'm going to give you an injury update to the best of my ability and tell you exactly what shape these guys are in to be going up to Tennessee. All right, so buckle up, buckle your seatbelts. That's what we're going to do. We're going to get into it here today on Locked On Jaguars. We're going to tell you about all of those things and make sure that you are ready for the weekend. I know there are some people traveling up to the game, so I hope you are having safe travels. And if this hits your airwaves, then good for you. It'll give you something to listen to and something to talk about on the way up to Nashville. Travel safely. All right, segment 2 of Locked On Jaguars is coming in just a second. LinkedIn Talent Solutions, man, is the absolute truth. Y'all have heard of LinkedIn. You've probably been on there looking for a job before. And like me, I've opened 3 businesses and I've used LinkedIn to help me staff those jobs. It's the start of the new year, and every small business owner is asking themselves the same question. What's the one move I can make that'll take my business to the next level in 2024? LinkedIn Jobs knows that your success depends on the team you surround yourself with. That's why LinkedIn Jobs has created the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. Here's what I want you to do. Post your job for free, the job that you have at your small business. Post it at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Remember, LinkedIn also knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire, and they'll do it for you. It's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl, linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. All right, running along back here. Segment 2 of the Locked On Jaguars podcast, where it's your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen as we get ready for this playoff. I want everybody to take a deep breath and woosah, woosah. I know you're excited. I know it's a game against our rivals. I know that they're a franchise that they're limping. They're on one leg, where everybody's thinking the coach ain't going to be there, that he's going to be going to New England, and that he's not on the same page with the GM that just got there last year from San Francisco. And they got a quarterback situation where they got an older guy who we've beaten up on, and then a younger guy, and then another young guy who might not be healthy, and we don't know who's going to play. And y'all probably sitting around here saying, well, we'll win if we see this guy, we'll win. Y'all, we almost lost to this team last year when they had Josh Dobbs at quarterback. It took miracles late in the fourth quarter. I remember vividly. I was in D.C. at my friend's house. I told him, yeah, they're going to win. City's on fire. I'm sitting there watching the game from up there, and I could not believe what I saw. I thought the Jaguars were going to lose. And then all of a sudden, Rayshon Jenkins blitzes, makes a play. Josh Allen picks it up in the flat, runs it in for a touchdown, and then they hold off the Tennessee Titans. I don't think the Titans are as in good a shape this year as they were last year. But I also don't think that means that this is going to be an easy game, because the Jaguars themselves are banged up. The Jaguars, for pretty much the last month especially, but maybe a little bit more than that, but all year, they had maybe 2 clean games. One of them was actually the first time that they played the Titans, so that does make me feel a little bit better. The next time they had a clean game was just last week when they played the bad Carolina Panthers. Shout out to Dave Tepper for trying to keep the fans warm. I know somebody out there looked like they was dehydrated, and Dave Tepper gave him a little something, and it cost him $300,000, which is nothing to him. Well, if you think that, rich people don't care. $300,000 is a lot of money. Tell you what, if you go up to a billionaire asking for $300,000 and see how fast he tell you get out of his face, it cost him some money, right? What would have to happen for the Jaguars to be disappointed this week? Guys getting banged up, injury guys, the guys trying to come back. Christian Kirk, who had a core muscle injury, wasn't supposed to be available apparently until the end of the playoffs, is back out there running around like nobody's business. That's all good until you get into a game. He said he had the injury for a while, and then he caught a pass with nobody around him and fell down. So you have to hope that Christian Kirk, if he does get ruled back in, his 21-day window opened up a couple of days ago. If he does get a chance to get back into the game, that the second-year Jaguar wide receiver, this is a 6-year in the league, hopefully he can just make it through the game, man, and give Trevor Lawrence a very, very familiar target that helps open up and create gaps for other people. You notice I said Trevor Lawrence, because I don't think there's a way in hell you keep Trevor Lawrence off the field. I just don't. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to play. He's listed as questionable officially, dealing with a AC sprain, a joint. I don't know how much he has thrown without the media present, but I didn't go to practice the last couple of days, but the media that did go down there, They kind of reported one day he didn't throw. The next day, all they saw him do was throw short passes, little 10 to 12 yard passes, while other guys were throwing intermediate or long passes, and he wasn't. Maybe he did do it, but he just didn't do it around the media just in case that there was some hiccup, because that would have been like widely reported. So from that perspective, I think Trevor Lawrence plays. I think they find a way to get him on the field. I think what's going to happen here with the game plan, this is a game where the Jaguars do have to get ahead. They have to take advantage of their opportunities. One way they can do that is by playing really good defense. This is where Tyson Campbell and Andre Cisco come in. You can't let Tennessee get early, big plays, and put them in scoring range, and also maybe even give up touchdowns. Just can't do it. Because now that means the more that they play this game, the more that they play well and the more points they score, this means that this game is not going to go the way you want it to go. And I think it's a formula game that has to go the way you want it to go. And here's what I mean. I want the Jaguars to run the football, to keep the pressure off of Trevor Lawrence. I want them to do the best job they can of running the football with a team. Jeffrey Simmons isn't there, but they still have Danico Autry. I don't want Danico Autry and Harold Landry, both having double-digit sacks to be able to tee off on Trevor. And Arden Key, the great Arden Key that we're all afraid of, right? I don't want those guys to be able to tee off and put the Jaguars in long down and distance situations, because the longer the down and distance, that means Trevor has to throw the ball further or farther, whichever one. I'm sorry, Ms. Hogan, I didn't pay attention in English class in the 12th grade. But it is very, very important that they not get to the point where they have to depend on Trevor Lawrence so much. I want to see a game plan just like last week, where they have a balance, where they run, they stay committed to the run, even though it seemed like maybe it's not working, but they stay committed to the run. And when they stay committed to the run, eventually Travis Etienne will pop a run and go the distance. But then you also keep a team that's a little bit depleted. You keep their defense on the field and you get them huffing and puffing. And that's when play action works better, and you catch something over the top and you put the game away. I don't think they're super, super explosive on offense. So what you have to do is put them in a situation where the one way that they can beat you, they're not allowed to do it. If you score early, they're not going to be allowed to just sit there and give the ball to Derrick Henry and dump the ball off to the tight ends and have these long, sustained drives, because they have to score points to keep up with you, right? So that's what I mean by the formula. If you score early and often, what happens is eventually they run out of time to execute the game plan that I think works best right now against the Jaguars. And what that is get them huffing and puffing, get them moving sideways, get them thinking, second-guessing themselves. Then they start missing tackles. You know, we've seen it all year. Those are the things that happen. The Jaguars don't score points when they get in the red zone. The other team does score. Jaguars get behind. Now the team starts playing ball control because the Jaguars are desperate. And then they start running, and then they start dumping the ball off. And then it looks like people are running wide open in the middle of the field. And then the Jaguars don't know what to do. And now they're playing desperate. And then all the turnovers come, and then they lose the game. That's why I gave you that little bit of injury update, because I think those guys are going to play, and I think it's super important that you got to go. That's why I call it big steppers. All of the big guns is all hands on deck. Everybody has to be ready to go. I'm going to tell you the pluses and minuses of this game, like win versus lose, and how you get two totally different perspectives, and you get two totally different things, and how this team is going to be viewed. One game. The difference between 10-7 and 9-8, and the outlook for this team changes tremendously. So make sure you hang around for segment 3 when we get to that. Right before we get to that, I got to tell you about Locked On Sports Today, the Locked On Sports Today national YouTube channel. It's been launched, and it's the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports across the top sports stories across the country every day, with local experts from Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. All right, pluses and minuses, and what happens if the Jaguars win, what happens if they don't. I'll tell you about that in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. All right, now I have to tell you about something that is extremely important, and that is BetterHelp. Listen, man, everybody goes through things in life, right? We all do. And I'm not afraid to admit that. I've needed therapy, and I got it, and it helped. You know, sometimes for us, we don't like to admit that, right? I'll be very, very transparent to you, and I'll admit that right now. It is very, very important that you seek out help when you need therapy. Great professional therapy, too, at BetterHelp. If you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire and get matched with a licensed therapist, and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Celebrate the progress you've already made with BetterHelp. Listen, visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon, LOCKEDON, and get started on your journey to learn how to cope with problems that you may be having. It's BetterHelp, and it does just that. It really, really helps. And make sure you use Locked On. Third, final segment here on Locked On Jaguars, where it's your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen. Shout out to the everydayers for tuning in and making yourself an everyday. And if you're not, you can be just by tuning in every day. All right, here's the thing. I'm going to go plus and minus, but I'm going to go minus and plus. I told you, one game should not change the outlook of a franchise so much. They're not going to fire the coach. They're not going to panic if they don't win. But it will give the organization that's used to a bunch of kicks in the you-know-what, it'll give them another one. And that is that you have not arrived. And that is a message that actually needs to resonate and be put into the DNA of the franchise right now, whether or not they win this game. But if they lose, that is the ultimate way of making sure that that message is loud and clear. That message should have been loud and clear in the offseason last year, but it wasn't. We all know what they did. They said we're good. We like our team. And I get why they did it, right? That's why I didn't go. I said, man, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't rest on my laurels. I would push. I would keep pushing. But I do understand because they're there every day and we aren't. One of the things that I did say is it depends a lot on what they have in development. We didn't know how many guys that they had, whether it be on the practice squad or whether they see little glimpses, or whether it was they sitting around and be like, man, he's going to be ready next year. He ain't quite ready yet. But with one more off season, with our strength and conditioning program, and I think he's going to be hungry. We haven't seen that young guy. In fact, the young guys that I'm talking about are guys that they actually picked and drafted, like Antonio Johnson. If they would have had like that dude on the roster last year who didn't play very much, I would have said, you know what? There it is. This is why they won't move, and this is why they won't go get that extra dude, because they already got him. Like the way they had Monteric Brown, who did, and he has played some. He ain't been great, but he's been out there. You would think that they have players that they're looking at and they're saying, like if it was Chad Muma, if they're saying, man, he's this close. He's this close. So when we go to three linebackers or one of those dudes needs a blow, we don't lose anything. That's not the case. That's not the case. Did they have that backup defensive tackle? Was it Ledbetter? I thought that they would have something because they stood still. So here's the thing. If they lose, it's going to be a swift kick like from a donkey, like bang. You guys better not do what you did last year. because now the fans that are always super loyal, that are always right there to buy tickets, that whatever the team usually decides, the fans ride with it until they realize it doesn't work. And then the fans are always going to go on the side of the organization eventually. And the reason why, especially when you're not playing games, and the reason why they're going to do that is because they are going to always lean on the side of optimism, because the team and the fans will always be there. The players, they change. Guys like me, we die off, but the Jaguar fan base will always be here for this team. This is one time I think the Jaguars fan base will really, really, really look at them with the side eye and be really, really skeptical if they lose and don't make the playoffs, and then they start acting like they've arrived again. You cannot do it. That's the difference. Now, you win the game, and then if you get in the playoffs and don't win, you can still feel a little bit of that, but you won't, because not as much, because folks will just be happy that the Jaguars won. It's now 2 in a row, 2 games in a row. You beat your rival. If you win it convincingly, if you go up there and win 28-10, got everybody back, now people are pumped for the Cleveland game, because that's who they'll play if they came back home. They'll play Cleveland. Folks are pumped. Folks are amped. And if you win and you go to the next round, well, you know what that means? That means things aren't as bad as we all thought they were for the last month and a half. And there won't be this big rush to change a whole bunch of stuff, but it'll be more of a cautionary, all right, man, let's just do a little more than we did last year. Y'all on track? You get to that point, they ain't even removing Trent Baalke. They might not fire him anyway. So it's either going to be, we need to take an exit and go in a different direction, and we need to make sure that we don't get complacent. And you might even see them apologize and saying, we made missteps and we did something wrong with the young team that we should have never done, and we put our foot off the gas a little bit. Or folks are going to act like the last 6 weeks didn't even happen when they started losing games. Folks are going to act like they ain't got no problem with Luke Fortner being the center. Folks are going to act like we don't need to add another big receiver. Folks are going to act like the pass rush is fine. Folks are going to act like everything is cool, but we just need to tweak it a little bit. That's the difference. That one game, you're going to go 10-7, you're going to go 9-8. One game will turn this whole thing upside down if we're not careful. I think they're going to win the game, and I think we're going to have a whole week of preparation getting ready for a playoff game against the Cleveland Browns. And I think if the Jaguars get the Cleveland Browns in Duval County, they were going to beat Cleveland, and they're going to get back to the semifinals. I think they're going to do that, and I still think they need to make a change. But that's just me being transparent and me being honest with you about what I see, and I just can't help it. I just can't help it. I am unforgiving for the way that they treated last offseason, and I think eventually somebody's got to pay for it. Because why they would get, if they get to the point the scenario happens, like I said, that means they're going to end up right where they ended up last year, and people are going to say, well, they didn't regress and they got to the same point with a tougher schedule. But I'm going to still bring up the fact that they would have been even further had they not. That's why it's so unforgiving for me, because it was a year of mental gymnastics for all of us, because they sat there and did nothing when all of us thought that they should have done something. And the last people you want to be right is a guy like me with a microphone and 50,000 fans that spend their money that were skeptical anyway. Because we are going to let you know. Just like I'm going to let you know right now that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. All right, man, y'all got it. I'll be here with a postcast on Sunday, about 30 minutes after the game. I'll be locked and loaded, and I'll be ready to let loose. They're going to win or they're going to lose, and I'm going to either give it to them or I'm going to give it to them. It's either going to be praise or it's going to be a mallet right in the middle of the forehead of that organization. And I know the fans ain't going to be mad at me for doing it. So let's just hope we are all in a celebratory mood this weekend. If you're traveling to Nashville, don't beat nobody up. Take advantage of the trip. Enjoy. Get to some hot honey chicken or whatever it is they eat up there, and be safe. Whatever you do, be safe. Happy New Year to everybody, man. We'll see you next time on Locked On Jaguars.